Hello, hello, good evening. This tells me no one's here. I've had a couple of comments, but no one is here. Oh, there's two here. It says Sally. Sally, are you here? And then Sandra. Hope y'all have had a good day. I worked today, so Jaden's here. Hello, Jaden. Hi, Paula. How are you? Saying I hope everybody had a good day today. We had nice weather today. It was all sunshiny, and I think it got up to about 77 degrees today. So it was really nice. And we've had those kind of days lately. So it's been really nice to have those kind of days. Anyway, Jaden, is this your first time in? Welcome, welcome. So I don't know that I remember you. Your little picture, those. So pictures are really small. Can't really see them. And so anyway, I have been quite busy lately. Been working on some content and changing some things. And Paula, I did do the vid IQ. It's kind of interesting. Hello, Cheryl. There are a lot of lives tonight. I noticed that. I don't know, but it does seem there's a lot of lives this evening. So, hi, Miss M. How are you doing? So it is interesting. I had them audit my channel. Just cute did. Oh, Miss M said I'm doing good. That's great. And I had a Cheryl, and so yep. I have been working on some content. Starting. I think it's going to be a series about breaking unhealthy patterns. So working on that. That's kind of where this topic is kind of a spin off of that, of what's, the state of being. And I'm going to kind of explain what I mean by that, and kind of get into that a little bit, and got some interesting notes here. And everyone's saying hello to each other. So what have you been up to? What have y'all been up to? I know there's a little bit of a delay in the... Sandra said, hey, everyone, why not be in a live all day while doing everything else too, right? Yeah, that's right. You can, I think. I noticed that Kathleen does her art stuff on Wednesday nights. She's still live. And Paula said she's not been doing too much here. And so I've been working on my income tax and content, and just trying to keep up with my dogs. And then I work on Wednesday and Thursday outside of the house. So and of course Monday was a holiday here, so anyway, I want to talk about your state of being. And this is kind of somewhat some research, science backed, but it's also my opinion that, you know, there's two states of being, and you can be in one or the other. And then there's a spectrum of each of those states of being. So you can be in the negative state of being or in a positive state of being. And there's a lot of sides to that. You can be in the negative is in resistance state of being, or in the positive, the non-resistant state of being. And one kind of comes from a point of pain, and the other one comes from a point of power, personal power. And these two, states of being have different biochemical loops involved in them. And it's to which extreme you are in the state. So let's talk about the negative state of being. And so often in this state of being, there's negative thinking, negative self-talk, um, the feelings of anxiety. And hi, Goodish. Hey, Joshua's here. I saw your slick little haircut on your short. And so these states of being, if you get caught up in the loop of the negative, say something happens and you have a feeling about it, well, then your negative self-talk starts in, or your thinking. And if it's skewed or it's negative, then you get into this loop of the more you think, the more you feel it in your body. The more you feel it in your body, then the more you think, and the thinking and the feeling drive your behavior. And so when you start thinking negative, you increase cortisol in the body, which is, that sets off your fight or flight type of, you get into your sympathetic nervous system. And it causes your brain to begin to connect in that way. And so often these thoughts come from your unconscious thinking. There's only about 12% of your thinking that's conscious. The rest of it's subconscious. And if you have some negative beliefs or unhealthy beliefs, then you're going to have negative or unhealthy thinking. And if you have negative or unhealthy thinking, your talk's going to be that way. You're going to be complaining or negative about stuff, or snarky, I call it. And then these chemicals get involved, and it causes a lot of distress and dis-ease. And what happens with that dis-ease gets, you internalize it, and over long periods of time, it becomes disease. And so everyone's talking about Joshua's haircut. So he got a haircut, and he did a short, and it was a nice haircut. We all like it. Missy M said she has a friend who's always complaining when you text her. You get it. It's a habit. It becomes a habit. This state of being is kind of like a habit. And, your unconscious, these repetitive thoughts set off biochemical reactions that lead to behavior, and those habits become hardwired, and you don't really even realize it. But there's also the positive side to that. How short is it, Rhonda, when you saw that? Josh was asking me. Are you talking about your hair? Or are you talking about the video? It was a short video of a short haircut. And I thought it looked really good. So this, how do you break this? How do you get into the positive state of mind? Because it's almost like self-fulfilled prophecy. And it is, because you will repeat the behavior. And I guess I can use the example of whether it's perceived or real, that somebody did something, you feel rejected. And so you said, you start in, you get that, you feel hurt. So you have that feeling in your chest and you think, oh, everybody's always going to leave me. And blah, 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 blah. You start in and it releases cortisol, and then you get worked up. It tightens your vagus nerve. You have that feeling in the pit of your stomach and in your chest. And over time, you begin to connect this feeling with something negative going to happen. And it repeats itself. And you just run on high alert all the time. And you have to learn to you have to learn to interrupt the thought. If you have a problem with negative thinking and negative self-talk, it takes some work to break that. There is a thought feeling connection, the feeling in the body and the thought in the brain, and they connect. So you want to flip the switch, and just thinking will not change your behavior, and just feeling can't change your behavior. But if you can connect the two, thinking, feeling, and then change your behavior, and some of the things that help rewire from a negative state of being to a positive state of being is to journal. Write about how you feel. Write about your thoughts. What are you afraid of? Ask yourself, is this true? Is what I'm telling myself true? I made a mistake. I screwed up. What if you switched that and said, I messed up. I always mess up. I can't ever do anything right. Well, what if you change that to, I'm human. I'm going to make mistakes, and I'll learn from it. So next time. So it's a shift of the way you think, and it's all tied up together. If you think somebody's going to leave you, you're going to exhibit behaviors, and you have an argument and you think they're going to leave. So you're going to exhibit behaviors. You're going to be clingy, or you're going to push them away, or do those sort of things. And those are the behaviors that are actually going to make somebody leave. So it's this, it becomes this loop. And if you can switch that, so there are some things you can do. Awareness is the first thing. Paula said, let me see. Okay. Joshua wants to, your hair's short, Joshua, but it looks really good. Oh, you got the wrong time, Pam. Well, you're here on the right time. You made it. I have not been back on here since I left you a message in your chat, Joshua, but I haven't gone back and looked at it. Pam said, I can't see properly tonight as I had an eye appointment and can't see close up right now, so it's very hard to type. Well, we're glad you're here, Pam. So Miss M said, journaling is always and great and beneficial as well. I need to start doing that again. Yeah, I'm on a right now on a 7-day challenge to uh, write every day about my fears and resentments. It's kind of a challenge, and just write them down on paper, and then right at the bottom that I release these to you, God, and all of this sort of stuff, and then go shred it and do that twice a day. So it's um, it's kind of been a good exercise so far. I've done it 2 days, so and then do a short meditation. These type of things help when you do that and you get all that negative stuff out on paper. Then it's not in your brain. It's not whirling around in your thoughts anymore, and you relax a little bit, and then you release it to the universe or God or whatever, and then you shred it. And it's kind of a process of flushing out what's inside you, and then the meditation helps put good stuff back in. So Paula said, where was that? Paula said she always struggles with her mistakes. Where was that? I struggle with getting over mistakes. Yeah, it's hard. It's hard to do that. It's if you think of mistakes as being opportunities to learn something different. Um, so Miss M said, I beat myself up over mistakes. Hello, Evie, and Debbie Sue's here. And so, but as human beings, we're going to make mistakes. And so you shift that thinking into the positive. And I know in one of the theories in counseling is choice theory. He uses a car model, and the first two tires, one's behavior, one's thinking, and then the back wheels are feeling and your physical. And if you run on your thinking, everything else is going to follow that. But if you take the behaviors, they're going to follow that. And that's kind of how you change the thinking, and you switch from being in a state of resistance to non-resistance. You learn to respond, instead of reacting, you learn to respond. And it's which state are you in? And you may be on one end of the continuum or the other in negative state or a positive state. But it takes work, it takes awareness, it takes focus, it takes a lot of to train your brain to think positively. Um, so um, I'm reading the chat. Evie says hello to everyone. Vicky from Vicky Retro Queen Bee Art said, hello, Rhonda and folks. I do lots of art journaling, currently working on a love journal. Yesterday, I touched on self-care love. Yes, that's great. And that creative, getting into creative stuff like that helps, and to add the thinking, the positive thinking, and you have to gain control over your thoughts. And a good way to do that is to catch the thought early, you know, and then if you get into the present moment, and then you ask yourself of that thought you thought, is this true? Like, I messed up. Is this true? Well, I made a mistake. Did I learn from it? Yes, I learned from it. Then it becomes a learning opportunity and not a mistake. And it's hard to do that. So um, anyway, it's I'm trying to talk and watch the chat. So Joshua's asking Miss M, thought you were in Kathleen's, and they're saying hi to Vicky. And Vicky says, Davy Sue, love you. Vicky's sending Paula love. Miss M said, Joshua, I got the time wrong. I thought it was 8, but it started at 7:30. So hi, Mike. How are you this evening? So anyway, we want to talk about how this impacts your physical and mental health. And we pretty much know what the negative does, but the positive, if you can get into thinking about abundance and gratitude and the good things in life instead of I got all this stuff going on and all these problems and woe is me. And this new attitude gradually and slowly becomes a good habit. I wrote down some things about I'm not going to complain about money any longer. I'm not going to complain about not having any. Not going to judge other people who have money. Not going to say I can't. I'm not worthy. Never happens for me. It's never going to work. And so you change that into the positive. Positive affirmations are good, but that they kind of can only work to a certain extent. A lot of times it's better if you ask yourself a question. And, is this true? Is one of the best things to challenge that. Okay, Mike says, good snow in. What's that mean, Mr. Mike? So Vicky said, I put a beautiful poem on my community post, Leaning on God's Heart. It is copyrighted, but you can take a photo and make it your own. That's great. And I think that brings me to, to get into a different state, you have to change your thinking. And in the Bible, it tells us, I wrote down the scripture reference. Romans 12:2, it says, be transformed by the renewing of the mind. So you have to renew your mind. And I like the old saying about, there's a white wolf and a black wolf inside of you, and whichever one you feed is the one that will win. And so if you can stay in the state of being to where you're in your parasympathetic nervous system, then you're healthier, you feel better, your brain's clearer, you function better. Everything about all of that runs better. Now, are you going to be able to do that all the time? No. But it is a habit that you get into. It is a loop. You wire your brain stuff together, but because our brain is that, you hear about neuroplasticity, and that's to shift and change the way your brain connects and fires together. You start, instead of secreting the stuff that makes cortisol, you have dopamines and endorphins and those type of things, the neurotransmitters that make you feel better. You're snowed in? Vicky said, I'm a retired RN, BSN. I'm not a therapist, but I have some training. Yeah, nurses get a lot of training about this. And, I know that when they work with cancer patients, they tell them that their mindset is everything. And, that's, you have to keep a positive mindset, because when we run on fear and anger and some of those things that create, they will make us sick. And, a lot of mental health things come from negative thinking. If you ruminate about the past and you ruminate about the past, you're going to be depressed. If you fixate on the future and try to control it by worry and overthinking and hypervigilance, you will have anxiety. And the only place that you can kind of begin to get is to stay in the present moment, because that's the only place I know of that I don't have a lot of things to worry about if I'm in the present moment. And I can't do anything about the past. A lot of anxiety comes from people trying to control what they can't really control. Other people, some situations, all that. The only thing you have any control over is your thoughts, your feelings, and your behavior. And you could change your perspective, your attitude. You can't be hateful and grateful in the same brain. You can't do it. So, Miss M said she's doing a Bible study about renewing the mind. So, I don't know what I said, Mike, but thank you. It takes a lot of snow to snow Mike in. Yeah, I bet it does. Driving on all that ice. I always get a little when I see him driving on that ice. It just, I don't know that I could. It just unnerves me to see him driving on that ice. In that last one where the kites were, there was slushy stuff, and I'm like, ooh. So, isn't isn't it Joyce Meyer who wrote the book about renewing of the mind? Yeah. Paula said, Miss M, I need to do that one. Debbie Sue said, that's great, Miss M. Miss M said, I'm going to be like Dorothy tomorrow, possibly tornadoes tomorrow in my part of Indiana. Oh. So, and Miss M said, it's really a good Bible study, Paula. Paula said, I catch myself bringing up old hurts, useless. Paula said, it unnerves me too. Mike, stay off the ice. Pam said, we just got a foot of snow and it was minus 39 Celsius this morning. Ah, winter has returned. Battlefield of the Mind. That's right, Sandra. I've never read that book, but I've heard a lot about it. But that is where I think the battle is. It's in the mind. As a man thinks in his heart, so is he. And if you think that everything's gloom and doom, then you're going to get more gloom and doom. And if you think everything is working out for your good and positive, then you're going to get more of that. So, hi Rosani, how are you this evening? Sandra said that the book that was mentioned, Battlefield of the Mind, it's really good. I read it probably 20 years ago. It's still her number one best-selling book, I think, is that the Battlefield of the Mind. Let me see if there's some more. Okay. Some of the reason that just by using positive affirmations are that you're still thinking one way but feeling another. You're telling your brain, that whatever the positive effort, I can handle this, I'm smart, I can do this, and all of those sort of things. But there's not in your heart, you don't feel that. So you have to work on your feelings too. Emotional regulation is real important in all of this to shift into the positive state of being. And it for me, it takes I use scripture and prayer and meditation. And prayer and meditation are two different things. Prayer is talking to God. Meditation is listening to God. And so, to me, listening to God is reading something that's positive. Like Yvonne does her readings, every morning and posts them here on YouTube. That's meditation. To listen to that, it's not necessary that you have to sit and get everything out of your mind. It's putting stuff in your mind. Quieting your mind is very good because you know um, that's I don't know. I think of that scripture, "Be still and know that I'm God," and to get divine inspiration or direction or anything, you have to learn to get still and quiet. For me, whenever it's that big old voice that just you want to that pushing, then that's not God's voice. And if I'm pushing, it's not God's will. I'm good at that. You take the round hole and the square peg. I just get a bigger hammer because I can make that thing fit. But forcing solutions is not a solution. It always, for me, has ill-got results. So to be able to relax, to get into a relaxed state of being, to relax my body and slow my brain down, and it takes practice. How do you learn how to play the piano? Well, you go see Miss Pam, and don't be early, and you have her teach you how to play the piano, but you have to practice to learn how to play the piano. Well, you have to practice to train your mind to be positive, to think in a different way, and it takes practice and repetitive practice. And you begin to, by doing this, you change your unconscious thinking to where it 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 doesn't run your life. And I have certainly, I've been the overthinker a lot of my life. And that overthinking has caused a lot of problems in my behaviors. And so I've used a lot of work and done a lot of work to train myself to do that. And things will happen and stuff will come up, and I will get into that worry and obsession and all of that. And I have to bring myself back again. So um, Paula was telling Sandra that she probably needs to read that. Rosani said she's doing good, thanks. The mind is an amazing thing. We just forget to use it properly. That is so correct. It is true. Sandra said, yes, it is. I'm going to leave the room for a bit. She'll be back. Sim said, my mind is always on overdrive. I used to have a problem with that, the overthinking. And a lot of times I would wake up like at 3 a.m., just and I broke that pattern by counting backwards. I'd wake up, and I couldn't go back to sleep. And so I used the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 kind of like a mantra. And I would fall back to sleep because it would stop my thinking. You can hear my dog snoring, Joshua? Oh, want me to be quiet? You can hear it. Oh, he's not snoring. Yes, he does. And even in some of my videos, I think the one that I'm fixing to put out, you can hear him snoring. So Vicky said, when I was younger, I worked 2 jobs. My baby boy, so he wanted me home more often. I looked at my income and changed my mind about what success meant to me and used one job to live within my means. Yeah. Yeah. You just, change your mind. And your mind is so powerful. Pam said you got it, Rhonda, with the little piano keys. You go to Pam for piano lessons. That's, Joshua said, I'm not joking, Paula. My ears can hear more than everybody else's can. And that is so true because you fine tune your other senses. My paternal grandmother was deaf, and she knew when we were getting into stuff. I don't know. I'm like, how does she know? She can't hear us. But her other senses were so fine tuned, you know. She was loud too. I'm a lot like her. I'm not this, quiet, demure person. I can be loud and boisterous. Oh, Mrs. G is here. So, uh, how are you doing, Miss G? Everyone's saying hello to Mrs. G. But, there's, I think that, when I was in psychology in undergrad, there was a study about this woman, and she thought she was pregnant. And she so determinedly thought that she was pregnant that she had the hormones in her body. Her abdomen was distended, like she was 3-4 months pregnant, but she wasn't pregnant. But she kept telling them she knew she was. She knew she was. And there's been some research done on, being able to heal by using these positive thought patterns and these, processes in meditation and movement and that type of thing to reconnect, to overcome, some pretty extreme trauma. And those type of patterns and depression and anxiety and those sort of things. And there's just a lot of research on that. So, yeah, Mrs. G said, hello, very keen hearing. Yes, Miss M, I hear things I want to hear. Do you have selective hearing, Miss M? So Joshua said, I mentioned you to someone, Rhonda. Her name is Kelly. Thank you, Joshua. Mrs. G said, hysterical pregnancy. But that's how powerful the mind is, that someone can actually think their way into, even go that they're sick. They have something catastrophically wrong with them, and their body reacts to that. And can you hear the dog snoring? Yep, he's snoring. Yep, both my dogs snore. The other one's young, but she snores. And it's funny. So, which ones did you watch, Pam, of Mrs. G's? Miss M said, selective hearing indeed. I listen to my parents very well. Joshua said, I bet Gina and me have good ears, LOL. Yes. Mrs. Paula said Rambo is asleep too. It's funny how the dog's he's fixing to be 16 years old. He's old, and he likes to get right up here by me. If I pet on him, he'll stop. Let's see if there's any other. So you have to just decide that you are going to create a new state of being, create a new state of mind. It's mindset. If you want to change your reality, you have to think, feel, and behave in new ways. So, what else did I? Yeah, your thinking, feeling, and behavior have to align. And you could ask yourself, what are the questions? I wrote down a couple of questions. How would an abundant person think? How would they behave? I don't know. I think that if it's good to ask the question of, I like the question of, if this wasn't going on in my life, what would I be doing? And then go do that. And that helps me kind of get out of that gloom and doom, or I call it the Chicken Little syndrome. The sky is falling. The sky is falling. So let's see. Vicky said, I was sad to read that the suicide rate among girls with ADHD was so high due to internalizing their defects. And I think that's true. And so often, I gotta get this off. ADHD goes undiagnosed because it has a broad spectrum of like different symptoms, and so it's sometimes hard to diagnose, and especially in girls, and that would be true. I would think that you internalize that, and the breaking the thinking pattern. So to be able to step into and if you have ADHD, it's hard to concentrate anyway. And, and we all have intrusive thoughts, and we all overthink at times, but to be able to sit down and just write it out, flush it out, put it on a piece of paper, do a brain dump, journal about it. So, hi, Lori. How are you this evening? And so, that's real important. Like I said, as a man thinks in his heart, so is he. So if you think negative stuff, you're going to speak negative stuff, and you're going to act that way. And so if you can think positively, everything works for my good, and that sort of thing. So, Miss M said, I take medicine for my ADHD. I didn't take medicine for it throughout my childhood because my mom didn't want me on medication for it. Now she wishes she did put me on medication when I was younger. Yeah, and there's controversy about medicating ADHD, and it's almost like your brain reacts in an opposite manner. It's flipped. And so it takes, they treat it with something that speeds up the brain function. Amphetamines is what they treat it with, and so there's some controversy about, does that cause addiction? Is there a correlation between ADHD and addiction? And I did my thesis research paper on that very thing, and um, there is, and it's not necessarily the fact that they took medication for it, is what I found out in my research. So, who's old, Mike? Miss G's asking you, Mike, about how the puppies, they are up and around. So, Yvonne's here. I talked about you earlier about how your readings or meditation, it's input. I think that prayer is talking to God and meditation is listening to God, and through wherever that comes into you for. So everyone's saying hello. They're 5 weeks old. So what are y'all going to do with the puppies, Mike? You're going to sell them? So how are you doing this evening, Yvonne? I always enjoy your morning affirmations. They're really good. And I like to listen to those. It's positive input for me. And that's another thing about your thinking. I think that a lot has to do with what you put into your brain. If you watch violent movies and all of that sort of stuff, or negative, there's some people on YouTube that sometimes I don't want to watch their content because I think it's going to be negative and I won't watch it. And so that has changed, can change my thinking. Hello, Scott. How are you this evening? Did you end your live early? Did y'all come over? Did y'all raid my live? Oh. So, but I don't watch the news. I don't watch, all that controversy, because I just don't. If I want to know what's going on in the world, or I need to check something out, I do it in the middle of the day. And then, I don't look at it. And, we used to watch the news. It came on at 10 o'clock at night. This is the last thing you saw. And then you'd go to bed. I was like, oh. So, Scott said, yep, I ended early and said, go to Rhonda. So Pam said, my son went off ADHD meds after a short time. He could not stand how meds changed his personality and mind. He really suffers, but that's what he has chosen. Yeah, a lot of people do. I know that behavior modification techniques can help with ADHD, but a lot of times it takes, med management along with behavior modification. So, Sandra's back. Miss G said it's so negative you don't like to watch the news. I don't, Miss M said I watch positive videos on YouTube as well. Vicky said I tried medication at a later age. It was a pain getting medicine, and it was not worth the change to me. I do better with working in a system and structure. Being retired, harder to do. Yeah, I mean, there are So there are behavior modifications. My older son had ADHD. They called it ADD back then. And of course, he had the inattentive type. There's inattentive type, hyperactive type, and combined type. And he was just more inattentive. And at that time, Ritalin was all they had to put him on. And he got to where he didn't like it. And it would wear off because, they didn't have time to release. He's 48. And so he learned behavior modification. He learned to sit in the front chair in the class. He learned to how to, with the distractions and that sort of thing. And so he, when he was in college, he did take medication at that time so that he could study and learn. Joshua said, what iMac computer do you have, the latest one? My computer is about 4 years old. So I got it before I retired because I started doing online coaching. So Miss Paula said, only watch positive channels. There's enough negativity in the world without seeking more. I agree. Joshua asking you, Sandra, she does live streams, and she does. Do you have a certain day you do your live stream, Sandra, or is it like just random? So Miss M said, when I was off my ADHD medication, I couldn't concentrate. I started a project and didn't finish it, and it was just a cycle I would repeat. And so I had to be put back on your medication. Yeah. It's really hard. And I think that some of those things get better. I do, Scott. He's snoring. All right. Y'all want to meet my pup? I'm going to wake him up. He gets all curled up here in his blanket, which is here. And then he goes to sleep with me. All right. Come on. Be the star of the show. All right. This is Scooter. Oh, he's like, oh, he can't see. He can't hear. He doesn't hardly have any teeth. He'll be 16 in a couple of months. So he is old, but he snores. So, yeah. Anyway, little sleepy pup. He's old. It's his bedtime. So, Scooter. Yeah, we name our dogs after Harley motorcycles. And he wasn't quite big enough for a Harley name. So he got Scooter. My other dog, she's Dinah. She's probably a Dinah White Glide. It's kind of funny. Because she's gotten a little hefty. She's about the same size as Rambo Paula, but she's a little bigger, a little heftier. Scott said, oh, that looks like my grandparents' little pup when I was a kid. What a little sleepy cutie. Yeah, he is. Suzuki. Yeah. Scott said his cat's name was Suzuki. Let me see him. My cat's name is Foxy. Yeah. So, hi, CL. How are you? Oh, Paula said Rambo needs to lose 10 pounds. Well, Dinah does too. Man, she knocked me down. So, Paula said up here, I read it. She's telling Miss G, Randy reads the news and wants to tell you about it. Oh, Suzuki's purring in your lap. Does it come through on your vids? Your videos? Yeah. I think the last one I did, I I thought, is that him snoring? About halfway through. So y'all can listen for that. Joshua will hear it. He has the good ears. Vicky from Vicky Retro Queen Bee Art said cognitive retraining helped me a lot. I get bored easily. My art studio has unfinished projects. I do like doing laundry. Haha. Laundry. Is that haha or haja? I force myself when it's necessary. A darling pup. Thanks. Scott saying hello to Yvonne. Mike saying hello to Yvonne. Suzuki is pretty floof. So Mike's asking Yvonne how the snow is up in her neck of the woods. Yvonne says she doesn't watch the news either. Yeah. Scott said her noise does not come through, but she some days wants to be on camera and some days runs away. She's a Maine Coon cat. Okay. Well, Mr. Scooter here was a rescue dog. My husband rescued him from the parking lot. He worked, sold parts for parts manager for diesel trucks. And out in the parking lot, the big trucks out there and everything. And he was out there, little pup. We've had him ever since he was a little puppy, brought him home. And so he attached himself to me, so I couldn't give him away. Nana said a lot of it, Mike. How about you? So it's snowing again up there? So, oh, the roads are too bad. So you're sleeping in the camper. You got your heater with you, Mike? So, and Scott's asking Mike how's hot dogs were. Mrs. G said that's a huge cat. Maine Coons are very big. Scott, Mrs. G has 13 cats. She does. Child, I got 13 cats. Yeah, he did. He brought him home. He says, we can find him a good home. And we did. 16 years later, he's still here. She's a big old girl, is what Scott said. So, your personal lap warmer. That's kind of the way he gets up here and just, so Yvonne's telling Mike, I don't blame you, Mike. Thank goodness we don't have sub-zero temperatures. Well, Pam does. 37 minus 37 Celsius. What is that? So, hots were good. Yes, he is working very well. The heater's working very well. Scott said 13 cats. That's a good start. Yeah, 13. See, she's confirmed it in the chat. 13 cats. She kind of lives out in where she can have all them kitty cats. So she said she has some shorts with some of them eating. Yeah, Miss M, 13 cats. She did have 14. I forgot what happened to that one. Mrs. G, Bob Barker. Miss M said, Mrs. G, do you want a few barn cats? I have some barn cats. Yvonne said, I'm sorry, Mrs. G, I can't do cats. Me either. I'm allergic to them. I'm allergic to their dander. It breaks out my skin. So, Bob Barker. Vicky said she's learned to hyper focus. You get things done when you go into that mode. 13 cats. Oh my, I can barely take care of my home with a husband, 3 dogs, and myself. Oh, Mrs. G said, no more cats for now. Yep. So, anyway, Yeah. I don't know. Our pets are so important. So Joshua said, I'm guessing wrong. That doesn't know my iPad charging port does display output too. Okay. Can you do all of that tech stuff better with them that cute short haircut? Oh, Miss M says I'm allergic to cats, but I have one, and so does my sister. I used to have a cat when I was little, but I don't know. I don't know when I became sensitive to their. I can be somewhere that there's a cat there, and it doesn't bother me. But if I get their dander, it's like they've been somewhere, and I get it on my hands and I get it on my skin, I break out. Yep, yep. I'd have to feel that short, stubby hair in the back. So Miss G said, well, maybe 4. LOL. Right now, Scott, I'm just using YouTube to do my live stream. I have an iMac computer. I use the camera and the um, mic that's in the computer to do my lives. I use my mic when I do my um, videos. And so, thank you, Scott. I really like this computer. And the mic's really good in it for lives. It tends to not be record quite loud enough when I make the videos. So the rest of it, yeah. I've used my I have a laptop that's a Mac, but this is the desktop, and it has this. I don't know how big this thing is. I measured it for Joshua, so that's great. That's good to know. Yeah, Mrs. G. Josh did a short and showed his haircut. So anyway, the cough is because I've been talking a long time. So, oh, Miss G said she's listening through headphones and it's very clear. That's that's good to know. I know that when I first started making my first videos, uh, people would say that they couldn't hear me, and so I got a mic. So, but on the lives, I've not had anyone say anything about the audio. So there's must be a different connection than when I use, and I record my videos in photo booth, and I do all my editing in iMovie. So this computer does all of it. Unless I'm outside, then I use my phone. So thank you. Thank you. I learned to turn the top light off, and I have a light over there in the corner and some backlight over here. So, um, and I, I mean, you know, you, after a while, people will tell you, your lighting sucks. Your sound sucks. I can't hear you. You need to do something. I got a lot of those at first. Oh, and it's kind of hard to believe. I think 6 subscribers away from 1,000. Oh, I can't look at it. So I don't know. I was earlier today, 6 away. So Vicky says, I am going into my art studio for a while. I will listen. Cynthia at SI speaks highly of you. I enjoy you too. Cynthia's story yesterday about it wasn't it? Oh, that made me laugh. Oh, thank you. There's the YouTube police. How are you, Gary? So we're doing good. So, yep, I'm doing all right. How are you this evening? About time for me to wrap up. I'm getting the eh, dry stuff, so now I'll start coughing. So, oh, the internet's acting up where you're at. Okay, entreaty. Entreaty means to call upon another with urging comfort and care. And it's always been a really special word to me. And it's part of my spiritual gift. My spiritual gift is exhortation. And that is um, I guess, kind of the verb part of that spiritual gift. Entreaty. It's an old word. If you watch and it's funny, when I, uh, in that one name encompasses all of my online stuff, my, ebooks and my online coaching, and I have a website, the whole thing, and it's all under entreaty. But it's an old word. You'll hear it like in some of the movies where it's like way back in the day, like 1800s and stuff. And they'll say, well, I entreaty you to concern looking at this, it's used a lot in movies and stuff, but that is where I got that word. And it's always meant uh, something real important to me. And that's why I picked it to be the name of my business, is Entreaty, because that's what I do. I call upon others with urgency, comfort, and care. And that's, part of what, you know, I like to help people break, uh, you know, get unstuck and break unhealthy patterns in their life that cause them problems and that sort of thing. So that's where the entreaty. I have it's an old video explaining about entreaty, what it means and why I picked it. So thank you, Gary. Says it's a great word. Scott says, I see that makes sense now. It all fits together like a serious, humble request used sincerely. That's great. That's exactly, yeah. And it's kind of like, um, I don't know. You just, bye, Miss M. Your friend Kelly loves my last name, Hensley. Yes. So sorry to hear it. Okay, I'll see if I can put it in a good word for you. What is what? Did I miss something? Anyway, I Gary, I did that. What last week, was it last week we were talking about? I made a master playlist and everything, and it's all set up. But I do need watch time hours. I'm 6 away from 1,000, and I have. I don't know that I looked at that. So, bye, Mrs. G. All right. What are you talking about, Gary? You're telling Scott said they were under arrest for not having a permit while live streaming. A permit for what? Did I miss something? Oh, I get it. He's under arrest for live. Well, I missed the first comment. So, anyway, it's been a long day for me, and I've been on here an hour and 10 minutes. I think it's time for me to get off, and I need to put this pupper to bed. He's sleeping anyway, so now it's even funnier. Oh, uh, well, yeah. I didn't know what you were talking. I am. Thank you. 6 away. It'll happen. Just, you know, it's slow. It's just steady, 1 or 2 here and there. And that's all right with me. Anyway, I hope y'all have a great rest of your evening and a good week. And just let me remind you to be you on purpose. Bye.